It feels like you can get your credit scores anywhere these days. Random websites, card statements, budgeting apps, heck, even your dog might bark out a few numbers. It's true. Credit Karma isn't the only place you can find them. But we actually do more with your scores to help you find your next financial opportunity. Like a more rewarding credit card, a game plan that helps you pay down debt faster, or a personal loan to help you save more on interest payments each month. Cha-ching! The possibilities are kinda endless. Download Intuit Credit Karma today to get started.
Welcome to What She Said, the heartbeat of Canadian women's voices, with me, your host, Candace Sampson. Here, we dive deep into the raw, unfiltered stories and triumphs of women from coast to coast. This isn't just a podcast, it's a movement where empowerment and education collide and where mansplaining is shown the door. We're here to celebrate, uplift, and echo you. So get cozy, tune in, and let's embark on this journey together, exploring the rich tapestry of women's lives, their battles, and victories, right here on What She Said. We're diving straight into an early Halloween treat this week. No tricks, just a lineup filled with inspiring stories. I've got extended interviews that are sure to captivate, so let's get right into it. Here's what's coming up. Jennifer Harper, founder of Cheekbone Beauty, shares her journey from vision to leading one of Canada's most innovative beauty brands, highlighting the influence of her Indigenous heritage. Kate Harris brings humor into the corporate world with her podcast, Humor in the C-Suite, exploring how laughter can be a key to success and well-being in stressful times. And finally, Jess Bosman and Brynn Davis-Williams from Doubl are here to revolutionize your bra experience, discussing what sets their designs apart in a quest for the perfect fit. So fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be an insightful ride right here on What She Said. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Jennifer Harper, a trailblazing entrepreneur who has transformed the beauty industry with her brand Cheekbone Beauty. As an Ojibwe woman, Jennifer's journey into beauty is deeply intertwined with her Indigenous heritage. What started as a vision to create sustainable, inclusive cosmetics has now become a global movement that inspires women everywhere. We'll be talking about Jennifer's roots, her leap into an industry she had no formal experience in, and how she has gone on to lead one of Canada's most innovative beauty brands. We'll also explore what it means to be an Indigenous woman in business, the importance of representation, and Jennifer's ongoing mission to give back to her community. Jennifer, welcome to What She Said.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I am thrilled to have you here. I'm not going to lie, I was fangirling huge leading up to this interview. You are so impressive in everything you do, especially as I was researching you. So let's start with your background. You've been very vocal about the role your Indigenous heritage plays in shaping both your life and your work. So can you tell us about your early life and how the Ojibwe culture influenced your worldview growing up?
Yeah, so it actually wasn't until I was an adult that I really started to pay attention to my roots. Me and my dad had kind of a tumultuous relationship, for lack of a better word, but thanks to massive amounts of therapy, I feel like we're in certainly a much better place now. But I grew up mostly with my mom, who's not Indigenous, and she tried to do her best job as a white woman to teach me about my culture. But when I look back now, I'm like, oh, wow, there was so much that she had left out, right? And I really love when I think about all the work my mom did do to also protect me from so many things. I grew up in the Niagara region, which was very conservative, and it is so much more multicultural now, but it wasn't when I was a small young girl going to school. And I recognize how much my mom protected me from different situations where it was clear where like it was racism was occurring. And so I really appreciate that because I think that helped me really build the kind of confidence I have in who I am now. And then it wasn't until I was a young adult that I started to see the world as it really was, as we should, and then learn to grow and live in those spaces, regardless of the situations that we find ourselves in. But I think that early protection from that is very helpful. And I'm saying that because now when I visit, whether it's Thunder Bay, Winnipeg, or my home community, the reservation where my dad lives, you really get a sense of this division between Indigenous, non-Indigenous folks. And there's a deep-rooted history, unfortunately, of racism, in particular in Thunder Bay and Winnipeg. And you really do feel it when you're there. And I thought about that. How much that could have impacted me in a really negative way if I grew up in that environment. So when you're protected from that, you don't recognize those things, which gives your creative mind a lot more freedom, and you believe you belong in places where maybe the world's trying to make you feel like you don't belong. So I really appreciate that from my mother. And then all of the experiences, my dad left the reservation and lived in Toronto for a long time. So being in St. Catharines, I was able to go back and forth when we still had Greyhound buses down the QAW to come visit him on the weekends. And there were so many beautiful experiences that I now truly appreciate. But when I was young, it is really awful, but I was embarrassed of my culture and the things my dad was trying to teach me about my culture, which is so awful because I think it's the world's was trying to make me feel ashamed of that. Or as young kids, sometimes it's our peers that without knowing it are maybe not holding those things as dear. And so I now definitely as an adult really, really am grateful for those things that he was trying to teach me about our culture when I was a kid. And when I think about the things I've learned about being Anishinaabe over the last 10 years, it's such a beautiful culture. And speaking in particular about my Ojibwe heritage, but the more I learn about so many different Indigenous cultures, the connection to creation and all living things, and seeing how really valuable that is to Indigenous people is really unique and special. And it's really embedded within our languages, how we live, and that's called our ways of knowing and being. And it is really quite beautiful. And I'm so proud that as a brand, we get to highlight that in many ways.
So was there a specific moment or turning point then, given all of this, where you realized you wanted to create a business that not only represented Indigenous values, but also empowered others?
Yeah. So, and not by choice. This is so great. I guess maybe by choice, maybe not by choice. I don't know. I had a actual dream. I don't have the traditional path into entrepreneurship. As you mentioned in the intro, I actually was selling fish. So that's January of 2015. My job has always been in the food industry, food space, but my role at this time was I was a sales rep for a seafood company. And I remember from this dream, 3 native little girls covered in lip gloss. And when I woke up, really the most thing I remember is like their giggling, their laughter, because they had made this mess of themselves with lip gloss, and started just writing down on my laptop to create a product. At the time, it was a lip gloss, and use a portion of the profits to do something to support my Indigenous community. And then now I have to give you like the backstory because like none of this all makes sense. It's so crazy. I was just learning about the residential school system at this time in 2015. And in 2015 in particular is when they did release that final report from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So in Canada, they did this extensive study on this residential school system, its impacts from survivors of the school, people that worked at the school. And it was a 6-year project, and they finally did this report. And I started to read it, and I really was learning that this is what both of my grandparents survived. And in particular, I know a lot more about my grandmother's story, but she was in residential school from the age of 6 till 16, like just a horrible situation, robbed of so many things, including her language, and abuse was prominent. And she left that system with so many scars. And I now learn a term in 2015 called generational or transgenerational trauma. So when the events of this school literally are then passed on to her next generation. So my father, my aunties, my uncles, and then ultimately passed on to me and my siblings. And my story is a bit dramatic, if you will. I had battled alcoholism for many years, and it was November 26th of 2014. I get sober. I have this dream 2 months later, and I think back now, like, who in their right mind selling fish thinks they can start a cosmetics company? But I was really just empowered with, I think, this newfound understanding of who I was and where I came from and why there was dysfunction and trauma in my family. And just understanding and knowing the why and the how really helped me see that, okay, this doesn't mean I have to stay this way or I don't have to continue to be this person. Then what could I do to support and help my community? And I was a big fan of other really social impact businesses. I learned that that's the term, what they were called, like Tom's Shoes, Patagonia, these organizations that were like not just existing to put goods into the world, but there was real meaning and purpose behind these brands. And that was, I just envisioned this beauty brand that one was representing in terms of imagery, right? And how we make products representing Indigenous people in a really positive way, because for so long, if we think of mainstream media, we were really posed in this terrible light. Like, and in fact, so many of the negative things that happen to us are in fact true. But I was like, can you again imagine growing up and seeing this constant narrative that this is who you are, these are the people you come from, and what that does to someone? And I really learned this concept or this idea of representation. And I believe that as human beings on this unconscious level, we have no idea how powerful that is to see yourself being represented in a positive way. So, I think there's got to be some incredibly smart university students and people that work on a study like this to really figure out what it means and how that impact works. Because I feel like in today it's 2024, but we won't understand what that means until the future generations come in, where we now see so much inclusivity, so much representation, and this is empowering the next generation to believe and do that they can do all these things that maybe they never possibly thought they could. And so that was just the original idea of this beauty brand, that's what we were going to do. And then at the same time, this idea that despite having no money at the time, thought I got to come up with a way to make these products more sustainable. I've said publicly numerous times that I believe Indigenous people are the OGs of sustainability. If you look at our cultures around the world, we really have this innate connection with the natural world, and how can we make that come to life through the products? So it has been quite the journey. I'm proud to say we launched the scholarship fund that helps us give back to community in 2021. We've given out 16 scholarships. We will launch it again for 2024 on September 30th. Our goal this year is 20, so we'll have a 36 if we succeed. And our intention there is to keep growing. Over last year, I recognized, I guess, the importance of this when we started to receive the because we open up the applications as well on September 30th. And our team was the one reading it. And we're just this small, tiny little color cosmetics brand here in Canada. And then we had 350 people apply for this scholarship, and we only had 10 spots available last year. And there's just so much incredible work being done with youth and the stuff that they're coming up with. And so being a part of supporting that next generation feels really special. And I'm really grateful that I get to do this job and be a part of that, and then make really awesome makeup at the same time, because who doesn't love makeup? Makeup is so fun.
You've just described sort of this perfect hero's journey. As I'm listening to you talking about, you were at the lowest of the lows, and then having this dream and then chasing it. I mean, this is such a beautiful story, but I have to go back to selling fish for a second because stepping into the beauty industry without a traditional background in it must have come with a lot of unique challenges. So what were some of the biggest hurdles you faced when starting your brand? Were there moments where you doubted if this was the right path?
Yeah, I think in the early days, I call that my rock star phase, where you're very naive and you think you can do just about anything. One, this is actually real. There's science around this in sobriety. Because you just can't overcome something, you actually are living in this space where you think you can do anything. And so I'm starting this brand at that time, and I was really feeling that way. And it honestly hasn't, it's been over the last few years where I'm really seeing how unqualified I truly was for this job, in the sense that every beauty founder I meet, they're an exec previously at L'Oreal, Estee Lauder. They worked on the launch of all of the incubated brands within those giant organizations. Everybody, like I am, or it's a celebrity brand, and there's a reason celebrities start brands because they already have a huge audience. And it's just, there's so many variables as to why this brand should not be successful. It should not succeed. One, my experience was lacking and having no connections or understanding of the space. But I also think and see this as truly fascinating now that how much I've learned, but then through this, looking at this industry through a completely different lens is also quite powerful. And our lens is an Indigenous viewpoint. And so sometimes questioning the way things have always been done is really powerful, where you can see changes. And we have built this brand with these concepts of sustainability, and we believe that they can fully be achieved on the journey. It's a road. It's not a perfect path, but like there's so many different routes we can take in the beauty space to prevent the enormous amount of waste that this industry is responsible for. We get so in depth when it comes to formulation that we want to only work with raw materials that are also biodegradable. So when your lipstick becomes a lipstick, many times there's a lot of ingredients, silicones, like that don't biodegrade back in environments. And so, for instance, if you have our makeup on and you're in a lake, in an ocean, you're washing your makeup off at the end of the day, this is going back into our ecosystems. And many of the ingredients, unfortunately, in the cosmetic space are not biodegradable. And so that's negatively impacting our ecosystems. And this is something that's not discussed. And it's really what sets our brand uniquely apart from the so many that exist, that we are looking at this at such that deep level, because I believe this is our indigeneity. Like, this is what makes us special. This is that love and respect and honor for the earth and all parts of it, so that we're protecting those systems by not using those kind of ingredients.
I read somewhere that you started your business in your basement.
I did.
Is that true?
Yeah. So $500 and a corner of my basement, not knowing any of the things now I know about how to formulate a product or the kind of makeup and how it should lay on the skin and what ingredients make the feel and touch of a product or the pull of a product or the pigment of a product better than one versus the other. So naive, and which is really fascinating about the beauty industry. And this is probably going to be shocking. It's actually relatively simple to start a beauty brand because there's something called white label or private label. And I know with globalization, this exists in most industries. For instance, you could get a pad of paper made with your company logo on it. Well, the makeup industry is the same. There's somebody selling a moisturizer, a shampoo, a lipstick that already has a one and done formulation ready and can just throw your logo on it. And then there you can call yourself a beauty brand. So entrance into this space, the bar is very low. When you get here and you recognize that truly nothing will be successful unless you come at something like with innovation or new ideas into an industry, it's not going to succeed. You're just going to be competing against the next person beside you. So we started in a very different way than where we are now. And it's because of the things I've been learning along the way. And so by 2021 is when we became a fully clean, sustainable vegan beauty brand with the mission of doing better for people and the planet. That was the goal. And we exited all of the products that we did start with, white label products. And it's so interesting because I didn't know any better. And then the moment I started to question ingredients and packaging, it's amazing how you completely transform. And I think it's really important for us as entrepreneurs to recognize that not all of our paths look the same either. And as you're learning on your journey, it's like, I think it's Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better, right? So enter this space that easy way. And I was like, hey, wait, or you ask questions. And then really that's where we discovered what is, the white space, for lack of a better word, in the market was this truly authentically Indigenous brand that did not yet exist in the world.
Sephora stores are everywhere you are. So just pop in when you need a brown lip to match your 90s playlist, a confidence boost before your interview, or a last-minute gift for mom's birthday. There's always a Sephora near you. Just pop in.
Use our store locator to find your local Sephora or Sephora at Kohl's.
This is what you do when you've just found that statement handbag on eBay and you want to build an entire wardrobe around it. You start selling to keep buying. Yep, on eBay. Over that all-black everything phase? List it and buy all the color. Feeling more vintage than ever? It's out with the new and in with the pre-loved. Next thing you know, you've refreshed your wardrobe basically without spending a dime. Yeah, eBay, the place to buy and sell new, pre-loved, vintage, and rare fashion.
Let's talk about your marketing a little bit. How has that evolved from sort of the beginning stages to where it is now?
Yeah, we've had some serious changes in marketing, and it's up and down. It's all depending on the market and how your business is doing. The beauty industry is predominantly marketing dollars. Like there's a lot of money that goes into marketing. And as a startup, as a small business, you don't have those dollars. And so thankfully, when Cheekbone Beauty started, we were in the glory days of social media when the algorithms were working for small businesses and not against, like there was just, so we really grew our community and we did a lot of marketing through like the free organic space of social media. Since then, of course, have changed the methods many times. We have so many different layers. We are constantly having conversations about where and how people find us and what that looks like. And just, we have just ridiculously small budgets compared to the rest of the beauty world. So we are very scrappy and creative. And I love it though. I feel like our customer really loves our authenticity. When we launched in Sephora Canada, we talk about being sustainable and we made this ad with me holding, like the dude with the sign, the cardboard sign. That was our sign, that cheekbone now available at Sephora, and me standing outside of it. Cause that's like literally who we are. But it's also something that we know people would pay attention to in terms of marketing. Right. And so we have a lot of fun with it. It's so challenging because this whole world, the digital space of marketing just changes so rapidly. And it's about staying on top of all the things that are happening.
What does it mean to you personally to be one of the few Indigenous women leading a successful beauty brand on a global scale? I mean, I really just want to pull this in, that this is a global scale you are on now. This is incredibly impressive.
Thank you. I feel incredibly grateful that I get to do this job, but I feel like this is just the beginning. I just did an interview, or over like the last few months, we were doing this interview with Beauty Matter. So it's a North American big beauty publication. Many beauty industry executives, investors, brands were getting resources from this media outlet. And they interviewed 4 brands that are Indigenous led, female led. And we started this group together called the Indigenous Beauty Collective last year. And it was really for us to come together, have a place to talk all things beauty, vent our issues, and then share ideas and share resources. And we did that on purpose because we really feel like this whole category of Indigenous beauty isn't as well known as we believe it should be. People talk about French beauty, people talk about Korean beauty, people talk about like South Asian or Indian beauty, which is like Ayurvedic beauty. So a lot of cultures have their beauty embedded into them and are talked about and written about. And we, 4 of us together, believe that Indigenous beauty is about putting the planet and people before anything else. And that's what we want people to think about when they think about Indigenous beauty, that these are the values and principles that our brands are built on. And we also want to be leaders in this space for a lot of other Indigenous brands that are coming, carving the path for them, making the space for them, with working with organizations like Sephora and JCPenney, like we work with. And we also, again, the thing that separates us is this innate connection to natural things. And we want to stand out in this world of beauty and own that space as Indigenous beauty brands. And it's really exciting because these are things in those early days when I was in my basement. I never dreamed that we would be in this space creating categories and doing these things. But that is something that, again, really proud of and really grateful for.
Before I move on to the next question, did you want to give a quick shout out to those other 3 brands so people know who to look for?
Yeah. So it's Satya Organics, which is an eczema ointment. Then we have Squalene, which is an Indigenous skincare brand founded by Dr. Lee Joseph, and she's an ethnobotanist, so understands plants better than anybody that I know. Maybe there's another Indigenous woman who wrote Braiding Sweetgrass that has the deepest relationship with plants that I've ever experienced, and it's beautiful as well. And then Jack 59, a shampoo bar conditioner company based out of Calgary as well. And so they're the 4 of us, and we don't want to be the only 4 forever. We definitely want this Indigenous beauty collective to grow and take it global.
How do you balance, because Indigenous storytelling has played a really significant role in shaping the Cheekbones ethos. So how do you balance telling these stories with running a business in a way that feels authentic?
Yeah, I think really just telling the truth, right? Of like who we are, where we came from, the stories that we've learned from people in our community, sharing the stories of other people from our communities and our spaces, and being authentically just true to ourselves. And I feel like it again is like this innately Indigenous thing. We have what we call an oral history, which I've found to be very frustrating when you're building a business, because we've used a lot of Indigenous teachings to build Cheekbone Beauty, including the core values of our company. We used what is called the Anishinaabe. They're the 7 grandfather teachings that come from my culture. And they're a set of values and principles like love, respect, humility. And that is how we've built our core values. When you think of your employee handbook that you're handing out, and this has been embedded into our organization. And what was troubling is now there's a lot of resources thanks to the internet. But when I'm thinking about how these things were passed down from generation to generation, it's kind of remarkable that orally these have all been passed down, and they're stories. And it's almost like those lessons that you're taught around the campfire from your youth that's how we've passed everything down. And I think it's so interesting that our cultures have survived and so deeply with these connections of storytelling. And I think it's a great way for a brand as well to really connect with their customers, to continue that storytelling thread.
Can we circle back to sustainability for a second? Because you've made a lot of incredible strides when it comes to sustainability, but I want to talk about your Sustain lipstick line, which is designed with compostable materials. Did you get a lot of pushback in the industry as you were designing and building this product out? Like, was it very difficult to create and then push into production this lipstick?
Yeah, so I did not go about this in any, which feels like, I guess, a normal way. I hand sourced, because this was the first product. So remember, we're doing things that old way, white label, private label method. And then I was like, okay, what's going to set us uniquely apart? This new vision of sustainability, focusing on our Indigenous roots. And had to hire a chemist to make the lipstick, because I didn't know how to do those things on my own. I can now formulate a lipstick, which is really cool because I've taught myself. But I hired a chemist, and we worked together on the ingredients. Again, going back to, we wanted the ingredients to be biodegradable, vegan, clean, and meet these sustainability standards that we're creating. And so it was a challenge, but I felt like it was just me and her in the challenge. So nobody was really pushing back. I feel like, of course, we are a non-existent brand. And so working with like one of our larger partners for raw materials is an organization called Enalex, and incredible work in the sustainability realm in terms of making raw materials for cosmetics and other industries as well. But the fact that they were working with us, no one ever was pushing back and saying, no, we can't support you. It's only as we started to grow and work on other things that I recognized, yeah, a lot of people don't pick up your phone call, don't answer your email, like, because they just don't, you're too small for them to worry about. So I felt like we got really lucky with that Sustain lipstick. I found the shea butter supplier. My friend at the time was importing this beautiful fair trade, organic shea butter from Uganda. And I was grateful that we had that resource. And she was literally visiting these villages herself. So we knew that this was just like an incredible experience to have that product in our lipstick as well. And knowing that like the waste from the shea nut was being used to fuel the family, like the women in the village, they would collect the shea and then use the waste from the shea nut for fuel to cook the meals for their families in the evening. And it was just like such an incredible part of this journey, is just meeting the connections of where we're getting the ingredients from that go into the product. And I think we got super lucky with Sustain lipstick. But as we started to make more products, then it felt more challenging.
You've become a role model for so many young women, especially Indigenous women. What have been some of the most rewarding moments in your leadership journey so far?
Yeah, there's been so many. I feel just knowing that you're here and you are inspiring people to continue on. It's so hard if you, one, are starting to build your own business, or you're working within an organization where you feel like you're not making a difference. If you're a change maker, these things are challenging. And knowing that we get to be a part of someone's journey and that we're inspiring them and that I get to be honest with them, like it's so hard. Like it's so hard. But my comments are always, if you don't give up, it can't fail. Right. So the really important common denominator is us. Like it's about us and how we feel. So how critical it is that we take care of ourselves, and work on ourselves just as hard as we are as these businesses or these projects that we want to make a difference. And I just feel that that's something you just feel good about. Like it's this, where you just get to give by being of what you're doing, and it's really impacting people. Like that, how fortunate is that?
Who's inspired you?
Oh wow, so many people. Like so many. I'm like from afar, like watching, people like Sarah Blakely and being able to get glimpses of them because they do share their world online. A lot of business owners in Canada, Joanna Griffiths from NYX and her experience in building that brand. And then my grandmother and my mom, like my Kukum, who's my Ojibwe grandmother, she survived residential school. And that was not easy. And she left there, even though she was beaten for speaking our language. She taught our entire family that language to the point where they still speak our language fluently. My uncle, Gabe Reel, teaches Anishinaabemowin at the University of Minnesota. Our language is a big part of our family. Me and my daughter and my son are the only ones that don't speak it fluently because we don't live in community, but all of my nieces and nephews and siblings that live there speak Anishinaabemowin. And that this woman who was not supposed to be able to do that made sure her whole family did. And language is so important when I think about our culture and our language. So many of our words are very descriptive and really come from the heart. And so I just feel like that's such an important part of who we are in describing our culture. And the fact that my family does speak our language is really powerful despite all of the odds. And so I really believe the resiliency of Indigenous people is empowering and inspiring. And then my own mom at the same time had her own struggles, but has just taught me so much about character, and just being honest and being yourself and, being kind to. I was taught to be kind to everyone all the time. And my mom is just an epic example of that no matter who anyone is or where they come from, it's just like kindness will be something that really does matter all the time.
Absolutely. You mentioned watching Sarah Blakely from afar, and I've been watching Cheekbone Beauty from afar for many years now since you sort of burst onto the scene and your exponential growth. And I'm curious, what's next for you? What's next for the brand?
Well, yeah. So there's still lots of growth to happen. We feel like we've done a really good job of growing here in Canada, and there's still room for that. But we really are focused on growing our US market and building our US customer as well. And again, we want to be global and work with all the Sephoras around the world. So there's still so much to do. And then when it comes to product, we're always in product development. There's so many incredible, unique things that we're trying and working on. We have our ingredient from grape waste that we've proven works, and are still trying to make that happen.
Outside of Cheekbone, because you are not just Cheekbone, you're Jennifer Harper. What's for you? What's next for you?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I feel like I am Cheekbone sometimes, and people call me, "You're a Cheekbone Beauty" publicly. So I feel like I am. Just, I guess, trying to recognize the importance of balance still, right? Taking time to rest, being an example for my team and the business about we have to rest. We have to.
Have the pressures of this business, has it ever been challenging for your journey with sobriety?
No. I'm really fortunate that I'm very I rely on the creator to get me through this, and that has certainly helped because I have not had any desire for alcohol in these 10 years, which is pretty incredible.
So if people want to find Cheekbone Beauty products, I know they can go online and order them. You are in Sephora. Are you anywhere else that people could find you?
So if they're in the US, we're in JCPenney, and then we're in a couple boutiques. There's an incredible boutique in Marin County, just outside of San Francisco, called Beauty Heroes, and a lot of great shops like that really focus on green, sustainable beauty. So I'm just like in my head, I'm like, there's no way I'm remembering all of them right now, but we're out there. And if anyone listening thinks there's a spot we should be, let us know. We will go after and do our best to get in that store.
Jennifer, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. You are an absolute inspiration. I am cheering Cheekbone Beauty on. I have no doubt you will be massive worldwide sooner rather than later. And I hope to have you back again soon.
Thank you so much.
Chronic migraine is 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more.
Botox, onabotulinum toxin A, prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine. It's not for adults with migraine with 14 or fewer headache days a month. It prevents, on average, 8 to 9 headache days a month versus 6 to 7 for placebo.
Prescription Botox is injected by your doctor. Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, including ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Ask your doctor and visit BotoxChronicMigraine.com or call 1-800-44-BOTOX to learn more.
Hi, I'm Michelle Datis, host of Maverick Makers. Every week, I'm meeting entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs who are making it happen. These bold thinkers are taking big risks, are trailblazing the way in their industries and lives, and are changing how things are done or made. You will learn about their journeys, their lessons learned, and their biggest maverick moves to date. Listen to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or at maverickmakerspodcast.com.
In this next interview, I'm joined by Kate Davis, a comedian, writer, speaker, and actress who is on a mission to help people find balance, resilience, and connectivity through humor. In a world that feels more stressful than ever, Kate believes that humor can be a powerful tool for mental health and well-being. You may know Kate from her work in comedy or from her popular web series Best Before, but today we're diving into her podcast, Humor in the C-Suite. Kate interviews leaders and executives to find out how they use humor to foster a great work culture and inspire success. Welcome to What She Said, Kate.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
You have done so much throughout your career, from comedy to speaking and acting. What inspired you to start Humor in the C-Suite, and why CEOs?
Oh, that is such a great question. So I'm a keynote speaker and I do a lot of speaking. And what I noticed was there was such a big difference between a place that was happy and people were allowed to be themselves, and a place where it was very regimented and very old school, I want to say. So I thought it was important to get the message out about how leaders can inspire an extraordinary work culture by allowing levity into their workplace. And what I found was companies, very successful companies, all had an amount of levity to them. Google, all their boardrooms are named funny names, which just tells people that, yes, we do have a sense of humor. You can be yourself here. So it's not really about telling the next best joke or being a comedian or a class clown. It's really about allowing people to be themselves, bring their authentic selves to work, and therefore having a bit of levity. Because when we work together and have more fun in the good times, we are profoundly better at the bad times.
I love that. Have you ever, I imagine you're obviously seeking out CEOs all the time. Have you ever interviewed somebody, though, in a leadership position who actually didn't have a sense of humor? Like, how did you handle that for an interview?
Yes. Okay. Well, of course, I'm not naming names, but I will say it is interesting, but I also love that, because it's like, as some coach explained it so well to me, it's like your car having a rattle and you go into the garage and you drive it around and the rattle isn't there. So they can't fix the rattle. So when someone comes to me and they don't have a sense of humor, or they don't know how to apply their sense of humor that they have to their life, whether it's at work or at home, I love that opportunity to say, you know what? I know somewhere in there is that little kid who wants to be lighthearted, but so often we're afraid to lighten up because we're afraid we'll lose our sense of importance. But the truth is, lightening up allows us to take risks. It allows us to think differently, to communicate differently, and it makes us more available and innovative and all those beautiful things that, bottom line, help us be more productive.
So in your experience then, from somebody who is maybe not funny,
yes,
which CEO or leader has made you laugh the most, and why?
Oh, well, I'm not naming names, but
come on. Maybe we want to work there, Kate.
You can't. No, you can't. You know what? It's so interesting because I had a great experience. I went and spoke at Medline Industries in Chicago. They're a medical supply company, and so many people rely on this company, whether it's a heart valve or protective gear or whatever it is. And one of the project managers there was absolutely incredible. And I went there for their town hall, like a happiness day that they were having for their staff, and I was just amazed at the culture. People, they were in urology, selling, catheters, but they had disco balls. So it was definitely, you felt like, okay, as much as, people's lives are depending on this industry and this company, you could tell that the humor was everywhere. And I think that's, is really what is inspiring, because it really is, it helps build meaningful relationships. It builds trust, but it also is a cure for arrogance, and really thinking that we really are, no matter what position you are within a company, everyone is special. Everyone is important. Everyone needs to be validated and feel those things. And that's when people are going to do their best. But if we can use a bit of levity in those moments, it's absolutely incredible. And I do find, like, people, I interviewed a colonel actually who lives in Ottawa, Mark Gasparotto. And his humor is so dark because he was in Iraq for 4 tours and this and that, and had so many people's lives depending on him. And I do find, when I have approached like healthcare professionals or people in really high risk situations, they always have a darker sense of humor to get them through it.
It's interesting that you say that. I read something recently that people who have been through the most traumatic experience often have the best sense of humor. Do you find that to be true across the board?
Well, I wouldn't say it's 100%, but I would say it's 98%. I definitely think, there's a great book called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and he was a
Love
Nazi
that
concentration.
book.
Yes, it's such a great book. And he became a psychotherapist after the World War II, after surviving, concentration camps and this and that. And he said, through dignity, grace, and humor, mankind can survive anything. So I really do believe in the power that it has, both on connecting with other people, but really connecting with ourselves. Because when we're more playful, we can discover more things. We get so stuck in our ways. We don't even want to try a new flavor of ice cream. You know what I mean? It's just like, we lose that sense of curiosity and adventurous. But when we can be a little more lighthearted about ourselves and not take ourselves so seriously, it really helps us discover who we really are and makes people want to be around us.
What do you hope listeners take away from Humor in the C-Suite? Are there key lessons or themes you've noticed coming through repeatedly?
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I'm going to give you 3 right now. Number 1, the best CEOs are very emotionally intelligent, and they really have a sense of, they know their own limits. And they never punch down. They're more self-deprecating. They'll make fun of themselves. They'll make fun of a situation, but they'll never make fun of who's working with them. So I think that's a really important note. Number 2, what makes the guests on Humor in the C-Suite, I think, so unique is they really do know that it really helps with team collaboration. It really does bring people together. So all those, when I was in my 20s, God, I hated icebreakers and all those things. I'm like, oh, we're doing this again, but it really does help people bond. And when we, as I said before, when we bond in the good times, we are better or more able to work through the hard times. When it comes to, and really, it really does help with, employment retention. All those things that, people are such important topics nowadays. It helps with burnout. Everyone's always like, getting your 10,000 steps a day, getting your 300 laughs a day. There's enough content out there. We have no more excuses. We can stream anything. I love cats falling. I don't know why, but I do. And the third difference I find with all my guests, or the third takeaway I'd like to say with all my guests, is truly be yourself. And they have no hype about them. They don't hold that. They really work at being their authentic selves. And they really are leading by example. So I think that's the third thing and really when we laugh and when we can laugh at ourselves, it shows that self-confidence, it shows that we're vulnerable and all those things that truly make us great leaders, and that we're great listeners, and that we have empathy and all those things. The power that humor has in the corporate culture or in any work culture, whether it's a school or a hospital, it's really about bringing people together. It's really about resiliency and teamwork and finding that balance in our lives. Not everything is going to be funny. Stuff is always going to happen, but it's how we adapt and cope with the stress that it's causing that counts.
Excellent. I mean, all great points. I couldn't agree with you more on all of those. I expect we will not see Elon Musk on your podcast at any time in the future. Now, one thing as a Canadian, though, I am certainly wondering is, why are you spelling humor without the U?
Just because it is so much in the States, because it's on Apple and everything, and there's 350 million people there and maybe 40 million of us. So I just felt it was better represented as a whole. Yeah. Sorry, absolutely. Canada and Britain.
I love our U's in those words. All right. So what's next for you, Kate? Where can people keep up with you and follow along? You are funny.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm actually performing at the Danforth Music Hall on October 17th on Accident in Toronto, and I'll be in Ottawa on October 23rd at the Meridian Hall in near you. So I'm very excited. And Honestly, you can find me at katedavis.ca. I would love to come into your work and teach your people how to bring humor and create an extraordinary work culture. Or you can find me at Kate Davis Comic on all platforms.
All right, Kate. I hope people take you up on this. Thank you so
Oh my God,
much for joining
Candace,
me.
you're amazing. Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. Bras are a daily requirement for many of us, but let's be real, they can also be a daily burden. Every woman I know has been on the quest for the perfect bra, one that actually fits, feels great, and doesn't leave us counting down the hours until we can take it off. My next guests, Jess Bosman and Brynn Davis-Williams, might just have the answer with their company, Doubl. They've set out to revolutionize the bra game and are here today to talk about what makes their bras so unique, the journey of building their business, and what's coming next. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thanks for having us, Candace.
Thank you so much.
So let's start with the big question. Why did you decide to create Doubl, and what gap were you trying to fill in the world of bras?
Yeah, so Jess and I met back in business school, and we had to come up with a new business idea, and we were looking at industries that hadn't changed in a long time. We were really big fans of Uber and how they had brought this new technology to the hired car segment, and instead of making taxis more efficient, they were completely changing the way in which we order and use a hired car service. So we were looking at industries that hadn't changed. And as we were doing that, we were adjusting our bras and really realized that the fashion industry hasn't changed in a long time. In fact, decades ago, we would get kind of custom made materials, like back in the early 1900s, people got things made for them. And then we went into this kind of mass industrial revolution, and we've lost a lot of the benefits of having made to measure. But with the latest technology, we can bring made to measure back. And for us, we wanted to start with the bra because it's obviously the biggest pain point. It's the hardest part of the body to fit. We have billions of women with unique breasts in all shapes and sizes that are trying to squeeze themselves into narrow, dozen sizes or so. And also a lot of the bra companies we learned are still owned and operated by men. So that really lit a fire under us and led to Doubl.
All right. So, obviously we've all experienced the challenge of finding a bra that fits perfectly, as you just mentioned, and feels comfortable, which I feel is impossible. But what makes Doubl bras stand out in such a crowded market then?
Yeah, absolutely. So to set the stage, I would say there's the true ready-to-wear bras that everyone's familiar with ordering online. Sizes really differ retailer to retailer, and it's common to make multiple purchases and then end up doing lots of returns. And then on the other side, there's true custom where you can go to a boutique. However, it requires multiple in-person fittings and is typically really expensive. So with that said, where we really fit into the market and where we're so revolutionary is through our custom fit and support. So based on this fit and that it actually captures your entire unique body, we're able to adjust band tension and cup depth and make sure that weight is evenly distributed. So it really reduces pressure points. So think about all the times where you have marks left on your body at the end of the day, or your underwire is poking into you and it hurts. So we really eliminate all of that. We use super high quality, ultra soft materials that are sweat wicking and antimicrobial. So this really supports women's changing needs. And we're also really eco-friendly and conscious to make a better planet. And then lastly, we are hassle-free. So you can do this completely from home in under 5 minutes, and it's totally private. So we like to say no fittings, no disappointment.
Growing a business, especially in fashion, though, can't be easy. So what have been some of the biggest challenges you've faced while scaling up Doubl?
Yeah, so in business, the big problem you're trying to solve, besides obviously the consumer problem, is finding product market fit. So when we look at those, from a product standpoint, it was finding the right manufacturer who had the expertise in bras and the equipment that could actually give us the luxurious finishings that we want. It was finding the right material that had what we were looking for. But then on the market side, it was finding the right target market, right? Because obviously, almost all women wear bras, but you can't have a target market as a new business of all women. And so we hosted a lot of events and we listened to feedback from the market, and we learned that the market, or the group that was most interested in our bras, were women who were in their 40s, 50s, early 60s. mostly women who were going through perimenopause or had recently experienced menopause, who had maybe gone through also breast cancer or a lumpectomy and needed a solution that was more tailored to their changing needs. Also, there was a lot of sentiment that we heard around women embracing their own comfort, a journey that had taken decades, but they were finally ready to put themselves first and prioritize themselves. And so our new target market are women who are perimenopause, menopause, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, and really catering to this group that's often left out of marketing and new product launches.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about the design process because your website mentions a focus on fit, function, and feeling. So can you walk us through the design process that helps you achieve that, maybe from the first time a potential customer logs into your website?
Yeah, you bet. So we definitely identify largely as a tech company. So as a customer, it's as simple as purchasing the bra online. So you just select the color that you like best and your support preference. So we have a less support and a more support bra. You check out and then you're sent a link to scan yourself. You then download the app. It takes less than 5 minutes. You stand in 2 poses and it's completely private. You're fully clothed. So on our end, the way that we've really brought this to life is creating a unique tech stack. So leveraging technologies that already existed, but were maybe used for different purposes, such as fitness, tracking BMI, or men's suit tailoring, and just taking that technology and really using it to create a product that's functional for women. And then we've used the latest in AI pattern making technology. And we also really prioritize listening to our consumers. So we've talked to thousands of women at this point, and we really appreciate their feedback. We want to know what's working for them, what they're needing, and really create this product for women and by women and make sure that it's something that's actually making their lives better.
So is all the information that a client inputs then retained? Say if they, they get their Doubl bra at home and they think, this is fantastic, I want another. Do they have to go through the process again, or do you keep that information on file?
So they can use their same scan if it's within a short time period. Say they want to order another colorway. Absolutely. Just press use my scan. If you'd like to rescan, potentially it's a little bit later, maybe your weight has fluctuated, then you can rescan. And then the process is the same.
Brynn, earlier on in this interview, you sort of alluded to that at first you wanted to start with bras, which makes me think you have bigger and better plans going on here. So what's next for Doubl? Are there any new designs, product lines, exciting expansions you're thinking about?
Yeah, so the vision for Doubl is really to, like I mentioned at the beginning, reinvent the fashion industry. And so what that would look like is we live in a sizeless world. So apparel is no longer sized. Everything's made exactly to your measurements. You are the fit model. And what that would look like from our perspective is you would visit our website, you'd log in, all of your scan data would be there. So you would be seeing the items in actually your body size. So you would truly be the model and the muse for everything that we do. And you'd be able to do a whole wardrobe. So we would have, obviously underwear is an easy extension, but then pants, shirts, blazers, jackets, everything that's a bit harder to fit than, a sweatshirt. And we would also hope that other companies would follow in our footsteps, either by white labeling the process that we've built or going through the process of building their own, because we want, the whole world to start to operate like this and for people no longer to be defined by sizes.
That would be a dream for all 5 feet of me, who has had to have every pant hemmed for the last 50 years of my life. So that would be absolutely incredible. I want people to be able to find you, learn more about the company, perhaps order a bra. So where can they do that?
Yeah, so they can go to doubl.ca. And that will be our website. And then you can also follow on our journey at My Doubl. And Doubl has no E for the listeners. So doubl.ca or mydoubl on social media. We share a bit about the behind the scenes of building a company, especially building it with your best friend, as well as upcoming new launches. So for us, that'll be a mastectomy bra. And then also more information about how to get a good fitting bra, why your bra might not fit, and also style and fashion and all those fun things.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today, ladies. I really hope you guys achieve huge success with this. This is a game changer to be able to order it custom to you at home. So I love it. So thanks so much. And we'll have you back again soon.
Thanks so much for having us, Candace.
Thank you.
If today's podcast resonated with you, spread the word and share the inspiration. Don't forget to hit subscribe on What She Said across your favorite podcast platforms. Crave more? Join my vibrant community by signing up for my newsletter at whatshesaidtalk.com, and let's get social on Facebook, Instagram, and X at What She Said Talk. Dive into my world a little deeper on TikTok and Threads at Candace Said. And for those who love the airwaves, catch me weekly on 105.9 The Region, Blast the Radio, and 107.7 Pulse FM. Until next time, keep making waves and remember, your voice matters.
What happens when we play outside? We become healthier, both mentally and physically. We become more creative and more focused. We connect with nature, each other, and ourselves. Let's Take This Outside, a new podcast hosted by me, Marianne Iveson, an aspiring outdoor athlete and nature lover. I speak to athletes, outdoor professionals, and scientists about their connection to nature, how it affects their performance, and everyday life. Let's Take This Outside, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, and at letstakethisoutside.ca. Come on a journey like no other, where you will discover many roads that will lead you to a happier, healthier, and more stress-free life. And the beauty is, you don't need any vacation time for this adventure. The journey will come to you. Join Avery Rich on your very own journey into yoga. Along the way, she will demystify yoga poses and guide you into a yoga posture or short sequence, all in less than 15 minutes. You have nothing to lose but stress. The Journey into Yoga podcast. It's not for people who like yoga, it's for people who don't like yoga. Follow or subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, or at averyrich.com.
Another Sound Off Media Company podcast.